Well, here we go, everybody. Welcome back to the Bass Commissioners. Just a couple of regular Joes who want to see the sport of bass fishing become the very best that it can possibly be. We tackle the hard issues in the sport, and when necessary, we produce binding rulings which the major organizations must follow. Oh, let's not kid ourselves. They're not going to follow what we say, but we want to make sure we get these binding rulings out on the ledger. We want to make sure that there's an official word on the great issues of the sport. And through our discussions and through our rulings, we are able to get that established on the public record. You can ignore us, but we're not going away. The Bass Commissioners. We're going to have our say. Hey, that rhymed. Wow. In this episode, we're going to talk about unification of the pro tours. This seems to be a fairly familiar rant for me. We've got 3 major tours in this country. At the end of the season, each of these tours is going to crown an Angler of the Year. At the end of the season, each of these tours is going to claim that their Angler of the Year is the world champion. Folks, we got one world. We cannot have 3 world champions. If you agree with me, or if you don't agree with me, drop us a comment down below. We'd love to hear what you have to say about this subject. You know, in this era of professional bass fishing, we want more respect. We want more accolades. We want our athletes to be regarded more highly. You know, we hear it all the time. We hear professional bass fishing wants to be compared to professional golf, the PGA. Professional bass fishing wants to be compared to NASCAR. Well, in the current setting, with 3 organizations each claiming to be a world champion, we're really more like professional wrestling, if you really think about it, and all their crazy organizations, and you know, who can keep track? Unfortunately, it comes down to what the fans, or who the fans feel like has the most credibility. We just want to get the confusion out of the sport. Let's have a single world champion. We're going to talk about that on the Bass Commissioners today. We've also got a few other things to get off our chest, as we always do. I think you'll find this episode's got a lot of funny stuff and a lot of nonsense, but that's what the Bass Commissioners are all about. Do you have a comment? Do you have a question? Is there something in the world of bass fishing that needs fixing? Send us a DM on Instagram at Bass to Anglers Podcast. Leave a comment down below. We'll get to investigating. I'm your co-host, Keith Nicewanger, and of course we are joined by Patrick Schaefer. Good evening, Patrick.
I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing all right. Got some things on my mind, as I'm sure you do as well. And let's get this party started. Tex fan number 1's here. Hey, Tex fan number 1. I hesitate to try to greet everybody that comes in because I might mispronounce it, but I see Lopez Ranel. Welcome. Thanks for being with us. You want to start it tonight, Patrick?
Yeah, I'll get it started.
All right.
All right, so our first topic is, does the sport of professional bass fishing need a Bass Elite Series versus a Major League Fishing BPT Championship event?
Oh, please can we have this? Please can we have this? You know, I want unification in this sport. I almost said more than anything, but I think there's things I want more than that. But I want unification in this sport. I enjoyed the days when all my favorite pros fished the same events, and I felt like Angler of the Year titles meant more when everybody was together, and I felt like Bassmaster Classic wins meant more when everybody was together. So absolutely we do. Absolutely we need some form of unification. And, you know, whether it be one event hosted by an independent group, or whether it be a short 3 to 4 event mini tour hosted by some independent group, I think that would be phenomenal for the sport.
Right, I agree. I mean, and like you and I have talked about, there's division, and the other one doesn't like to acknowledge the other one exists, and I understand all that. But to us, the fans, they do exist. So as much as y'all want to pretend, y'all being them, that they don't exist, they do to us. So let's have an event like we could have a 3-tournament shootout at the end of the season, take the top 20 from both series, and then, I mean, Bass Pro Shop sponsors both leagues.
Yeah.
Maybe you could get them on board. They did that big deal where it was for, I'm not saying it has to be for $1 million, but they did that big shootout deal where everybody, if you fished in a boat that was made by Bass Pro Shops, or owned by White River Marine Group, you could fish in their tournament series and a chance for $1 million, and which was awesome. But what if you did something like that for the anglers, and then you could have a trophy, and you take the top 20 from here and the top 20 from there? They used to do that kind of with the Toyota Texas Bass Classic. They would bring people from FLW and from Bass, and they came and fished on Lake Conroe several times. And Keith Combs and Ike Anelli battled it out.
Yeah, that was the PAA. That was the Professional Angler Association. That was that union that existed for a while. That put that together. I attended one of those at Lake Fork, and you're right. You had FLW pros and you had BASS pros there, and that was great. It was great.
Yeah, because we used to have to do they brought the firefighters in, and we did EMS standby before they did takeoff.
Okay.
So we would just kind of basically go stand on the dock with some medical bags and make sure nothing happened to anybody before they got sent out to go fish for the day.
Yeah.
So, like I said, that was where I figured out. I was like, oh, hey, hey, that's the guys in FLW. That guy's in Bass. Oh, that's cool. They're bringing him, and you kind of figured out that format, and I thought that was pretty awesome. And so if we did that now, and then, like we said, you bring the top 20 from each league,
Mm-hmm.
and you fish 3 tournaments, and you come up with a point system, and, maybe a good point system, nothing like, hey, if you have a bad first, obviously you can't tank the first tournament, but, and maybe you do a cut, like, hey, we're going to fish this tournament, and after this tournament, we're going to cut the field in half, and then half those guys go fish the new lake. And then after that's over, you cut the field in half again. It's just an idea, but you cut the field in half again, and now you may have 15 anglers fishing a huge lake, or that might allow you to go to a little bit smaller lake like MLF's already allowed to do because of their format. And maybe this helps give you a chance to expand on some other lakes and gives Elite Series guys a chance to maybe fish some lakes that they may not always get to. Because with the opens and everything else, there's too many people.
I really like the idea. Well, there's a couple things. First of all, the BPT is now fishing a 5-fish limit, and so it's not a question of this format versus that format. It's the same thing. It's like Major League Baseball. The American League has a designated hitter. The National League has a designated hitter. They're finally playing by the same rules. So let's do it. Maybe we take the top 10 from each division, from each organization, and really bump up the payout. That way you finish top 10 in the BASS Elite Series, finish top 10 in the BPT. Now you've got a chance to fish for some really free money, significant money. 40, it doesn't matter. It's semantics, the number. But I think,
right.
In terms of making it a made-for-TV type thing, a lot easier to get, probably a lot easier to get cameras in 10 boats. Maybe it's the top 5 cameras in 10 boats than it is cameras in 20 boats or cameras in 40 boats. That would be very exciting. That'd be very exciting.
Yeah, I think so. And then you would truly know who is the best in the world. for that year.
It almost seems like we have to make a ruling on this, and we haven't really. This has been kind of a short discussion, but I mean, it seems like a no-brainer.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, to me, there's no reason to not do it. Like, you can't give me a logical explanation on why we should not do this.
You know, you mentioned something pretty profound there too. You said Bass Pro Shops is a major sponsor of both tours. I don't know why a company like Bass Pro Shop or Power Pole or some of these or Mercury or Yamaha doesn't come out and say, hey, look, both organizations, we need this for the sport. Can you find it within yourselves to work together on this and make it happen? You know, I mean, it seems like one of the big sponsors needs to go at both organizations and say, look, we're going to support you, but we want you to do this. And I think that would be pretty cool.
I agree. I mean, and even if you got...
You hear that, Bass Pro Shops? Come on, Bass Pro Shops. Let's get going on this.
Yeah, Bass Pro Shops. You could do Bass Pro Shops. You got all kinds of things. I mean, even if you went and got multiple people to sponsor it, you know, maybe if you got Tackle Warehouse to do a little bit, Bass Pro Shop to do a little bit, Mercury to do a little bit, Yamaha. I mean, you get all these people to throw in a little bit of money, and then you get a big payout and say, hey, look, it's great sponsorship, because just think, I mean, this guy would be considered the best in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, when we have the Super Bowl or when we have the World Series or the NBA championship, we know, hey, that was the best team in baseball, or that was the best team in football. Or in NASCAR, they all race against each other. We know that was the best driver for that year.
Right.
Not, well, he was best in that league, but if he had to play in this league,
yeah,
maybe not. All that's gone.
Yeah.
So I say we make the ruling.
I think we do too, and you know, the organizations are not going to like it because right away, by doing this, the Bassmaster Classic becomes less important. The Red Crest becomes less important. You know, that's just the way it goes. We can't have two world champions. BASS is going to claim that their classic winner is the world champion. Major League Fishing is going to claim that the Red Crest champion is a world champion. There's not two worlds. There's one world.
Well, and this is what the organization needs to realize, too. We have all-star games.
Right.
We have all-star games in baseball. We have all-star games in football and basketball. And we get all the best players and put them on a team. I mean, baseball's a little bit more. Football, they barely even touch each other now and all that stuff. But
right.
Baseball is a little bit more competitive, I feel like. And I'm sure basketball is, too. But still, it doesn't take away from the World Series championship or the Stanley Cup or the Super Bowl trophy. The Bassmasters Classic is always going to be the Bassmasters Classic. So having this other little event that they throw some money at, and these guys go compete against each other, and it could be make it fun. I mean, even if you wanted to make it, well, no, because you could do a team series deal, but I still think having individuals and figuring out who the best in the world, that would kind of take away from that if you did a team series deal. But I think it would be fun, and you get all these guys together that just enjoy fishing and can talk to each other and have a good time, and they don't really care. I mean, if I played baseball and my brother is in the National League and I'm in the American League, I don't care. He's my brother or he's my buddy or whatever.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah, you know where this already takes place a little bit is on Joe Thomas's show. Have you ever watched Match Fishing? Have you? Okay.
Oh yeah.
So that's one of my favorites as well. But you know, it's so time delayed. By the time you see it from when it happened, it's not happening. So there's some of that. I believe that they've got a mixture of BASS and Major League Fishing anglers on that show. But
and the other thing I think you should do on that is you block out the window when the tournaments are going to be, and you let the guys know, hey, this is when the tournaments are. Yeah. We're not going to tell you where it's at.
Right.
And then we're going to wait till 4 days before practice or whatever. Figure out, these guys have been traveling across the country long enough. that there's got to be an average of about how long it takes a guy to get somewhere. Like somebody can figure out the statistics on that and say, okay, hey, if I'm asking Brandon Polnick to drive here from Idaho, it's going to take him, let's give him a week. Fine. So a week before that turn, he knows he's got to be somewhere.
Yeah.
And maybe you give him a region like, hey, we're going to be headed into southeast United States. That's where you're going to be. So just get an idea about how long it'll take you to get there. And a week beforehand, you tell them, all right, this is the lake you're going to.
Yeah.
Pack your tackle and head that way.
Yep. No, I agree. So here's what I propose. Does the sport of professional bass fishing need a BASS Elite Series versus Major League Fishing BPT Championship event? I say yes.
Yes.
Just like that, another binding ruling made by the bass commissioners that will probably be ignored.
Probably.
But there you go.
You never know, though. We make enough of these things. I mean, I have a choice but to try to listen one day.
Here we are. We are changing the sport, improving the sport of bass fishing one something at a time. All right. I got one for you. So there's been some talk this week. I'm very sensitive to those who talk badly about forward-facing live sonar. As you well know, it's a quest of mine. I think it's okay. I think it belongs in the sport. Randy had an episode this week about it. I read an article on Bass Fan about it as well. Does forward-facing electronics increase the cases of bass dying of barotrauma? Are you familiar with barotrauma?
Yeah, it's when they get pulled up
From
too deep
too deep.
water. And,
Yes. Yes. And I'm sorry, but that cow left the barn a long time ago. You know, we've been catching fish out here in Southern California out of 60, 70, 80 feet on our 2D electronics for a long time. Don't tell me that forward-facing electronics is going to make this any different. If you're concerned about barotrauma, then get rid of electronics altogether. Get rid of electronics altogether.
if you're worried about barotrauma, then quit fishing deep.
Well, I mean, you know, the idea that bass live deep, and sometimes, especially in the winter months, that's the way you're going to catch them, because they're out under the shad, and if the shad are in really deep water, then that's going to happen. Yes, it's going to cause some fish to die when you do that. Now, we've learned to needle fish and so on and so forth. I don't think that's necessarily the greatest thing that could happen for them, because, you know, do they swim off and do they live? I don't know. But you cannot make me believe that putting fish in a live well, driving them an hour across the lake, bumping them around like that, keeping them in a live well all day, weighing them, and then releasing them, you can't tell me that is any better or any worse than catching fish out of deep water. It just, you know, yes, I know what barotrauma is, and I acknowledge that it's real. You catch any fish out of deep water, you're going to affect its swim bladder. Okay?
Right. I mean, you got to do it deep sea fishing all the time. You go out there and start catching snapper, they're too small. You got to pop the bladder and send them back down.
Yes. I just, to blame forward-facing electronics on this, that is absolutely unacceptable in my mind.
I'm just going to go ahead on record and say that's the dumbest thing I've heard this week.
Is it? Whoa,
Yeah,
congratulations.
I've heard some pretty dumb stuff this week, but that's probably the dumbest thing I've heard this week. Is that forward-facing sonar is increasing barotrauma to fish. Like, why? If I drag I fish 20-foot deep flats, and sometimes or whatever, and catch fish from 20 foot down and reel them up, and that was long before I ever had forward-facing sonar.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the biggest bass I ever caught in my life, I caught without forward-facing sonar, drifting a Carolina rig across the flat in about 15 foot of water. Now, and I do, like you said, I understand in California, in some places, they're catching them even deeper than that. but they've been fizzing fish for years, long before side scan was even invented. They've been freaking fizzing fish and all that stuff for bringing them up too deep. And I've heard from some people that say, hey, the best thing is when you catch one that deep, just some guys don't even fizz them at all. They just don't reel them in as fast. They just try to let them gradually bring them up.
You know, that's another thing you can do as an angler is you can bring those fish up slower, you know, not horse them up. Now, in fairness to Randy, I don't think that Randy was blaming forward-facing electronics. The article I read on Bass Fan did mention that forward-facing electronics was going to cause more barotrauma for bass. But again, I can't accept that forward-facing electronics is going to be the problem there. You know, we used to spoon for bass using a flasher in the front of my boat that had a transducer attached to the trolling motor. So I literally stood in real time over those fish with a jigging spoon and caught them out of 60 feet of water.
Right.
And you know, I never really had to fizz any of those fish. I usually bring them up pretty slow, and I didn't have problems with them.
Right. Yeah, and I've read some articles on Bass Fan before, and they got some good information. And it's nothing personal, but again, I feel like anybody's looking for any reason that they can possibly find, and whatever they can randomly pull out of their rear ends to come up with to say, oh, hey, this is why forward-facing sonar should be banned. I don't like it, so you shouldn't like it either.
Right.
It's just, and again, nobody's given me a logical reason why it should be used. Like some people will say, oh, well, they should just have to use regular electronics. Okay, whatever. I mean, again, it's like we talked about before. Oh, forward-facing sonar is not okay, but power pole, spot lock, side scan, 2D, down scan, all that stuff's perfectly fine. 3 graphs on the front, 2 at the console. We can have all this stuff, but don't you dare use a forward-facing sonar because it's just crazy to me. And like I said, that is probably the craziest explanation I've ever heard is that itself. Because I just don't get it. Like, the reason behind why that's going to cause more barotrauma.
Yeah, well, I think the I believe it's agenda driven. You're going to claim that we can see fish in deeper water with live scan, and we can catch these fish easier with live scan or forward facing sonar. And I'm sorry, you can use 2D sonar. You can use a bloody flasher and do it. And to me, that is, like I said, that is something that is way past debate at this point.
I mean, like I said, when my brother and I were going fishing in his boat, he doesn't have live scope or anything like that. So we would drive over the top of the fish down there at 25 to 30 foot of water, and we would see him sitting on the bottom on his 2D sonar. We'd drop a waypoint, we'd turn around, we'd drift across it, or, spot lock on it or whatever, and throw a Carolina rig out there and, dragging the old ball and chain, and wham, we'd catch the fish that were sitting down there that we saw on 2D sonar.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that was possible because the only way you can catch them was on live scope, apparently, but we did it.
Paper graphs. That's what I used. Did you ever use paper graph?
I did not.
My goodness, that was a treat.
So my brother had a boat when I was younger, so probably like the late 80s, early 90s, and he had the flasher, but then he ended up getting rid of the. When would paper graphs kind of come out?
Well, let's see. I had paper graphs on my Champion, which I had. I had a paper graph on my Bass Tracker, and I had a one on my Champion, and that was early 80s paper graphs. And the liquid crystal stuff came. I think that's probably 90s. I think, but the thing about the paper graph is, oh my gosh, feeding the paper when you needed to change a roll of paper on your, I can't. I remember we did it, but what a pain in the butt that was. It was
I bet.
Geez Louise. Jeez Louise. All right. Well, I think we've talked about that, and I think that is. I think we've. I don't know that we needed to make a ruling on that or anything, but it was worth talking about. Have you got one? You got another topic for us?
So you had we had the follow-up question: should bass tournaments hold live weigh-ins?
Oh.
When the technology exists to have kayak-style measure and release events?
Well, we kind of addressed this question last week, the week before, when we said that weigh-ins, there should be no more weigh-ins for the elite level tours. The BPT doesn't have a weigh-in, and we strongly recommend that the BASS Elite Series do away with that. You need to have a boat official weigh, release, and use the technology that's available to have a real-time scoreboard and those kinds of things. Okay, we talked about that already. I don't want to go through that again. I think we made a ruling on that, actually.
We did, actually, now that you say that.
Yeah. Now, what I'm talking about is those next tier events, those events like, say, the Opens and, say, the Toyota Series and the Invitationals. My question is, should those events use the catch photograph on a board with the with the correct information there, like they do in kayaks, and should it be a length tournament instead of a weight tournament?
So my only issue with a length tournament is part of my hang up used to be with MLF was that at the time before it was it was the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit. So when it was still the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit, they fished a 5-fish limit, and they were trying to qualify to fish in every fish counts event series. So you had, like minor league baseball players, they're still playing baseball. So I guess I would probably, for me to make a true answer on that, I would have to see statistically, like averages, okay, this length fish averages this much weight and stuff along those lines, so that you don't have those issues. Because, like I said, that would be my only concern is you got all these guys catching, maybe you catch a fish that's really long but only weighs 4 pounds, but because it's really long, it throws you, sometimes you catch those little footballs that are 3 pounds and they're just tiny little footballs, but I think technology is moving in a direction. I was actually watching a deal today. It's called Cast App, and they actually have a deal. It's castapp.fish. I took a screenshot of it so I can remember the website. But they had people in Tennessee and people in Florida, and they were fishing today, and they were all live streaming. And they were measuring, but if you had I guess there's ways you could mess with scales and stuff like that, but still, they were live streaming the whole tournament. You could go on their website, click on different anglers that were fishing, and their plan is that once Elon launches his Starlink, that they'll be able to live stream from anywhere in the country, because that'll be up there. And I thought it's a free deal, and what they're wanting to promote to is local tournaments. If they wanted to have a live event, they're letting you use their platform to do that. But anyways, I'm kind of got off topic there, but if you had something like that, and maybe, I don't know, I'm with you. You're trying to promote taking care of the fisheries, keeping the fish safe, and all that stuff. So having an event where you measured the fish and released it, which I think I've already told you this before, I did that in a local club tournament. I kind of came as a guest one day, and I fished as a co-angler, and it was a slot limit lake, so that's how they did it there, was you just took measurements, and then they said, okay, this fish is – there was rules, like if it was over 23, then you rounded up to the next inch, so it'd be 24. Or if it was 18, then you said it was 9. If it was 18 and a quarter, you said it was 19, and vice versa. But, and that's how and then every length had a weight, and you would just write that weight down. So, I don't know.
Well, I don't know that we need to. I don't know that we need to have a ruling on this, but I think in the spirit of conservation, I really like what the kayakers do.
Right.
Is it possible to cheat? I know that they've had some of that taking place, but we've had people shove weights down fish's throats too, and so I mean, there's going to be that, I think, in every situation. I don't know. I think it'd be very hard to convince bass boat anglers to go to a length, like weighing on a board, photographing that. I don't know if bass anglers that fish out of boats are wired to do that, but I do think that the weigh-in is kind of an antiquated system, and personally, I can't watch a Bass Open weigh-in. I can't watch a Toyota Series weigh-in because they take forever. I just can't. It's unwatchable, unless, like you said before, you're looking for a certain person. You're looking to see how they're doing. But these long weigh-ins, I don't know. I mean, I do believe we're stressing the fish, and anyway.
No, I mean, yeah, and like I said, I know we kind of talked about this before, but you're right. I mean, you take these bed fish and stuff like that. You're catching off the beds and trying to turn them loose, or you're dragging them way over here, and then you got a live release boat that goes out and releases a couple here, a couple there, whatever. But and then what's to say that guy's just not like, I'm tired today, I'm gonna release them all right here. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that when there's a tournament on the Delta, the meat wall gets filled with lots of fish because they get dumped there. When there's a tournament, in other places, the cove around the corner suddenly has a huge population of fish. There's no doubt. I mean, you've got guys that are working the live release boats. I mean, I'm sure there's a format. I'm sure there's a way that the organization has some kind of say in what they do. But do you really see these guys getting in that live release pontoon boat and going, an hour across the lake? I don't.
No, yeah.
I know that there's a break line off of Windsor Park where all the weigh-ins at Lake Havasu are. There's always fish. There's always fish on that break line. They get released there.
Right.
Anyway.
No, and I mean, like Lake Conroe, you figure if a pontoon boat runs, because I used to take my bay boat out on Lake Conroe, for me to run from the south end to the north end, or about halfway up the north end, was about a 30-minute run at 30 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So 25 to 30 minutes. So now you take a pontoon boat that's probably going about that fast because it's got a bunch of big tanks on it full of water and full of fish. So there's weight. So it's not going to be screaming up the lake.
Right.
You think, because that's my brother in the big bass tournament last year we fished, he caught a big fish and we were up on the northern end of the lake. I promise you that guy didn't drive all the way to the north end of the lake to drop some of those fish back.
Right. I agree.
So if we could have, and I know it's tough, but if you take there's got to be some people that you could get together and put them in a boat and say, all right, hey, this is the deal. You got to have this camera in the back, and you're going to be live streaming the whole time. We're going to have people watching. You could put 20 cameras up on a screen, and if one of those cameras quits working or goes dark, then you call that guy and say, hey, man, you need to fix your camera.
Yeah.
But you watch that guy and you tell him, hey, when you catch a fish, you got to turn around. You got to show us you're taking it out. You got to use this scale, put it on the scale, show it to the camera, or whatever. There's got to be some technology of some sort, or even they hold it in front and it sends a signal back somewhere that tells you what the weight is. Like, somebody's got to come up with something that would work in these events.
Yep.
And put some guys out there with some fake fish so that you're not harming real fish. Put some fake guys out there with fake fish and see if they can get away with sneaking weights or something into a fish, and if anybody can catch them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, hey, man, we want you to try to get caught, and then see if they get caught. And if they get away with it, then figure out a way. All right, hey, this is how they did it. Let's figure out a way to catch them not doing that again.
Sounds like a good idea. Well, it might be a little bit before it's time. Hey, we got just a short amount of time here. I wanted to throw one more thing at you. I wanted to ask you, who is on your professional bass fishing Mount Rushmore? It can be anglers. It can be people that invented the sport. Who you got?
Oh man.
Would you like me to go first? Because I have.
Go first.
Okay.
I'll see if I have anything.
Okay. So here's what I think. First of all, I think Ray Scott, because Ray Scott started the whole thing. I know that there were bass tournaments before Ray Scott. But Ray Scott was the guy that took the big chance and started the Bass Angler Sportsman Society. I don't know if young people know that that's what BASS stands for. Okay.
Probably not.
But anyway, so Ray Scott, I think also Irwin Jacobs. Irwin Jacobs is the one that essentially started FLW, and he was very innovative in the things that he did. I know it's going to sound like a conflict of interest because right over my shoulder you see Duckett Fishing, but I think Boyd Duckett and Gary Klein for what they've done with Major League Fishing. Those would be the four that I would put on Mount Rushmore because to me they're the ones that are bringing the sport to us. Now, you could go the other way and say, how about someone like a Bill Dance and someone like a Roland Martin? Yeah, but those guys were anglers, and Jimmy Houston. I don't know that those guys have so put their money where their mouth is, so to speak, and made this sport what it is. Got any ideas? Got any thoughts?
Yeah. So when I was thinking about this, like that was kind of my thought is because it all depends on which angle you want to take with it. So, like you said, if you're trying to go greatest fisherman of all time, well, then you have to go, Kevin Van Dam, Rick Clunn, people who won multiple Angler of the Years or people who won multiple classics. And so, but for sure, 100%, Ray Scott, without a doubt, is on my list, on my Mount Rushmore.
Mm-hmm.
Because he created bass, which, everything else spawned from that. FLW came from that. We have everything. MPFL. Everything can be traced back to BASS.
I agree.
So, and then for me, I would have to put, I do think Boyd Duckett and Gary Klein are doing a lot. They're helping the sport of bass fishing. I truly think that they care. Not everything they did worked out perfect, but not everything that everybody does works out perfect. There's hiccups along the way, and I feel like, unfortunately for them, they had the crosshairs on them from day one because of what they did. So everybody was just waiting for them to hit the first little speed bump. Go, there it is. See, look, here we go. They're falling apart. And I don't think that's fair to them. And I've listened to some of your interviews with Boyd and some other people that have talked to Boyd, and I don't personally know the guy, never met him, never talked to him, but he seems like a genuinely pretty good person to me. So I think he truly does care about people, and he is a businessman. He tries to do what's best for him. So,
Hey, just I got to stop you in mid-sentence. We're about to lose our Zoom here. We're about out of time on the Zoom. So if you got 2 more names you want to throw out really fast, or we can continue this on Instagram Live.
well, I'll throw 2 more out real quick. So I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna cheat, but I'm gonna put Duckett and Klein together.
Okay.
Then I'm gonna say Bill Dance and Kevin Van Dam.
Okay.
Oh boy, a bass fishing Mount Rushmore. Well, you know what? This is not an original idea. We hear this on various sports talk shows about various sports. Why not a bass fishing Mount Rushmore? I suppose determining the criteria would be the hard part, but really, what is the criteria? Are those 4 presidents on the Mount Rushmore the 4 greatest presidents? Boy, that would be a debate as well. You got a comment? You got a bass fishing Mount Rushmore? Leave us a comment down below. We'd like to hear what you think as far as what would be the correct bass fishing Mount Rushmore. Does bass fishing need unification? The bass commissioners have decreed that it does need unification. We'd also like to hear your comments on that question. Again, leave your comments down below. That's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for being with us. Until next time, stay safe, be careful out there, and we'll talk to you again very soon.